I'm on it. Because I was looking at I was about to go back to my room to get my notes. My other notes.
It smells good.
Yeah, this fettuccine Alfredo.
Okay, girl.
I'm telling you. That's that dollar living.
Oh my God. So, let's go ahead and dive in. So we've been working on drafting exemplars and grading from them.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the impact of doing that?
I think I've gotten tougher on my grading with like right is right. It's like if it's not there, it's not there. And then it's just like hitting home of like spiraling more of the concepts that weren't hit the first time and making sure that I'm bringing it back in do nows. Or like it's like exit tickets, like especially if the answers didn't come out 100%, those questions are coming back again on the do nows as they start the next day.
Say that last thing again. About exit tickets, what'd you say?
If they're not understanding the portions from the exit tickets from the previous day, that's being spiraled back into their next day lesson as the start, so it becomes like a do now review. So that I just need to make sure that it hits home. Like I just have to make sure that they're getting the point.
Great. That's something we're going to talk about today. We're actually going to dive into like how can you respond to the student work before the exit ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I've noticed as your strengths is like you have been responding to exit ticket data.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that because again, like you're doing the do nows. I saw you pull. I've seen you. Why can't I type? I've seen you pull up your IA as many as 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I've created a beautiful monster in you, and you are comparing their responses to exemplars, not only that you create, but also those on the IA. Great.
Okay.
And so, what is the impact when you don't have an exemplar?
Well, I've been putting exemplars. It's just like I've been trying to like get the lessons out, like showing what it is that I'm actually doing, and then it's like when I go back to it, like when I know I'm teaching it the next day, actually putting in the responses that I need. But in actuality, it's like if I don't put an exemplar, they're not gonna hit the standards that need or the objectives that need to be met.
So you know how to write exemplars.
Mm-hmm.
And this is me holding your feet to the fire a bit. I know you know how. And last week I gave you this praise that like when I tell you to do something once, you do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not been the case with exemplars, and I know you know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, but this is the most important thing. I know you know how to plan a lesson, and so by writing exemplars, this is how you're taking it to the next level.
Okay.
Because again, what is the impact of writing exemplars?
They're meeting those objectives.
And because the things I heard from you, it's not an objective, but like you, like right is right.
Right is right. It is.
You were going hard the other day. I forget what word you were listening for,
Mm-hmm.
but you made a kid, like 3 different kids say it until you heard that word. And if you had not had that exemplar in your head, would that have even happened?
No, I was waiting for the word dissolve.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the word dissolve.
So, holding your feet to the fire a bit, like when I'm getting your lesson plans and stuff like that, I want to see exemplars because I know you know how to do it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll take it to that level.
All right. So today I want to dive into it. You've been really great about responding to exit tickets and spiraling things in, but how can we monitor the quality of student work before the exit ticket?
Okay.
And so this kind of ties into what we did in the PD yesterday, but now we're gonna like based on your lesson plan feedback in the PD, think about how we can prepare for it in your class. Mm-hmm. So how should you prepare for aggressively monitoring when you circulate?
What I did today, to be honest, was I was showing them pictures of chemical and mechanical weathering of different pictures, and they had to respond to those, like pretty much like they had a scenario that they had to read. Based on that picture that they saw, they had to figure out whether or not it was mechanical or chemical, and then explain the process. And as I was going around looking for the explain of the process, I made sure that my exit ticket went and used some of the characteristics as what they were actually seeing within their classwork.
But So that's, you made sure you had alignment is what I'm hearing, because I
Yeah.
just heard you say like I made sure the question matched the exit ticket. But when you are great at circulating. I noticed the other day in your class, 26 out of the 30 minutes I was in there, the kids were working silently and you were constantly moving. But what should you be looking for, and how can you plan for that? Like with that question today, what did you want to see from students?
I wanted them to see that, to realize that limestone gets weathered by acid rain. I wanted them to see that it's a chemical reaction.
So you knew the key things you were looking for. Now, what questions today in independent practice answered those topics? You can pull it up if you need.
Oh yeah, please let me do that.
Yep.
Let me close up all the other ones that I was looking at. Today is this one, right? Yeah, this is today's lesson, okay. Alright, so today's independent practice question that would have given them that is...
Because I heard you say you like predetermined the key language you want to see in a student response.
Yes.
So you're like kind of like halfway there. You're thinking about it now since you've written these exemplars.
Yeah. So like pretty much using like the gravestone made out of sedimentary rock, right?
So what question numbers in today?
I'm sorry?
Sorry.
Oh.
You named the key things you wanted to see, and during the independent practice time, what questions addressed that?
Picture number 5, which was question number 5.
Okay, and what else?
And question number 4.
So 4, 5.
4 and 5. And 1.
1, 4, 5.
1,
So
4,
when
5.
you're circulating on your first loop, what should you be looking for?
On the first loop, I was pretty much looking for their understanding of the concept, like that they understood the difference between chemical and mechanical, right?
Okay.
Being that when they
Is that
picked,
the one that's in question 1?
yes,
Okay.
because they're both all the questions are saying the same thing, but when I was looking for their explanation of how did they know, I was looking to see that they were able to, one, go back to their previous learned information that they learned from our explain, and being able to use it in their explore.
Okay. So
How should I word that?
how are you letting students know whether they're on the right track or not?
I've been checking their work, so like if they have the right key terms, they get a check on their paper. If
Okay.
they don't have the right key terms, then they're getting a dot as I'm walking around, and then they're like, then I'll go and I'll use their pencil and underline the word that they messed up on, so that they know that they have to change it.
So some of the things I've heard you say are like the exemplars, having the key language in mind, like you know the stuff that you're looking for. When I pushed you on it, you could tell me the exact questions. You said 1, 4, and 5, and then you said they have a check or something like that. So these are the things that I know you're thinking about. Now we want to come up with like the system for making it a habit. Make sense? So the criteria for, and I put them on our 03 template.
Sorry, I'll pull that up again.
No, you're good.
Got it.
What are the 4 things there to prepare for aggressive monitoring? I want you to read them out loud. They stick right here.
Oh, on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Draft exemplars. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep,
Draft
those are the
exemplars
4
to each
steps.
question. Predetermine the key language. Predetermine which questions, and use your system for marking student work.
And what do you think the impact will be of doing those things?
I'll have stronger responses, and I'll have students that actually remember what key levers they need in order to correctly answer a question.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I chose to dive into this is because you've been putting so much effort into like really going hard at those exit ticket and revising it. Like this is a way to respond to student work before the exit ticket.
Okay.
Next level. It's because when I observed the other day, again, 100% of the kids working silently were circulating and managing, in the WebQuest activity. What could you have done differently during that activity? Tying it back to these actions.
I don't think I would have done anything differently, to be honest. Because as I was walking around that I was monitoring and I was circulating the room, I was marking students' papers as they were working. And I was making sure, like, for certain students that were just, like, not there, telling them where they needed to be.
I didn't see the marking, so maybe that was just when I was in there, but I wasn't there for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see you marking.
Okay.
What questions were you looking at?
I was looking at question 2 and 4, which was on the vegetation and weathering, and I was looking at water and weathering.
Okay, I did not notice that as an observer in the classroom, and I'm sure the kids didn't know that. So remember yesterday we saw in the video the teacher how she said, in my first lap I'm looking for this, and then kind of how did the rest of it go? Do you remember the video?
She was just like she was calling her shot as she was circulating the room.
So how could you have done things a little differently yesterday?
I could have called what I was looking for, but at the same time, I don't want the students just to concentrate on those 2 questions because I still wanted them to answer the others.
I don't think that they will do that in your class. I hear you. But
Yeah.
students are very invested in your class because they've experienced a taste of success. 1/3 of the kids in that IA celebration were because of your class. And like you're to a point now where 100% of kids were on task. Not one single kid was off task in class.
Yeah.
So I don't think that calling your shots is going to be
Okay.
an issue. Kids want to work for you because they know they can be successful. They believe in what you're putting in front of them, if that makes sense. Like they're not like, what's the point of this? Because they see that, oh, if I do it, I do well. Okay, so the action set for the next week is to monitor the quality of student work during independent practice. Now, this is something that you say you're doing, but the things that I want to see are predetermining the questions and then having a system for how you're marking it up.
Okay.
I'm going to highlight that. I did magic white text in it. Oh, bam.
Okay.
So what I want to do to practice is to pull up an upcoming packet. Doesn't matter to me. Probably one of the ones you submitted on Tuesday. One of those 3. It doesn't matter to me which one. And I want to go in and do this. I want to draft the exemplars, determine what questions you want to aggressively monitor, and then note what system you're going to use.
Okay. All right, let's look at the weathering and erosion.
Great. So go to the independent practice part.
Go into the what? Independent practice. Okay. Why did it do that? Oh, did it go on? Okay. Okay. We'll look at. Let me see. What's my favorite one?
Which one is most aligned to the IA? Not your favorite one.
My favorite. The one that's most aligned to they're all aligned to the IA.
Okay, let's take a look at the questions then.
Okay. I'm like, they're all aligned to the IA. I made sure, like, when
Which one is going to be the most bang for your buck? Like, if you monitor this, it's going to translate to triaging, and responding to student work before the exit ticket.
The movement of sediment by moving water and by wind. Like I went and I made sure, like, the questions I asked were pretty much aligned to the constructed responses.
I would say you could even chunk this out.
Into what?
How is the movement of sediment by wind and water and wind similar, and then how is it different? Instead of comparing and
Let's compare and contrast.
But up to you, because they don't have to do something that in depth.
Okay. And then it's like the next
A
one.
gardener digs episode. That's a good one. Let's go. That's a contender. Let's look at the next one.
Okay.
You live in a house at the bottom of a hill and what's your name?
And then the third one, which is the CER, is on the speed of raindrops, like small raindrops versus large. So the effect of raindrop sizes and the rate of erosion.
Great. I would say the second or third question.
Okay.
If they can do the third question, they're going to be able to do
Do
this. So I would aggressively monitor for the third question.
Okay.
So go back to that third question, and I'm going to give you about 3 minutes or so to make an exemplar.
Okay.
And then we'll, after you're done with that, then we'll talk about how you can aggressively monitor for it.
Okay. For number 3, right?
Because it'll set them up for success for number 4 and the exit ticket.
Okay.
And the performance task. That's like the biggest bang for your buck
Yeah,
question.
because that's like, these questions right here we're adding to like 2 of the questions, I think.
Yep, that's why
Okay.
I always choose the moneymaker questions.
Okay.
So write that exemplar. Good?
Yeah.
Let me read it. You live in a house at the bottom of a hill in a desert. One spring day it begins to rain all day. Should you worry about anything? Should you worry about my house in the bottom of the hill in a desert when it is raining all day because the particles of sand in the desert, I would say, not clay. And the desert will make the water overflow. This in turn will cause the muddy water to slide downhill towards the house. What is this an example of? What other vocab word can you tie in here? The sediments are moving down the hill.
Erosion?
Yes. So I'm going to push you to add something in about erosion.
So
Maybe this is an example of erosion because, and this is going to be similar to that stream question on your IA.
But the concern will cause the muddy water to slide downhill.
This is an example of erosion because. I love this question because it ties to both your performance task and that creek question.
And that creek,
I should
yeah.
worry about my house at the bottom of the hill in a desert when it is raining all day because the particles of sand in the desert will make the water overflow. That doesn't necessarily make sense.
No.
Because the particles in the sand in the desert will, what's a better word instead of make?
Cause.
I would say move. That's the key definition between weathering and erosion. Because the
Will
particles of sand in the desert will move
The water and sand.
due to the water overflow. This is an example of erosion because the muddy water slides downhill towards the house. Because the main idea that they need to know is like with erosion, things are moving.
Hmm.
So what are you going to look for in your first loop?
In the first loop, I think I'm looking for them discussing the sand.
First, though, they need to know that one
That
question
they
should be worried.
So that they should be worried.
Right. So first loop, you're going to look for like whether. So I would put another comment in it for Agmo. Loop 1, you're checking to make sure they say they should be worried, right? You gotta go around the room and make sure everybody says they should. Because if our dear Rico says we shouldn't,
Yeah.
then you can correct it before he writes the whole dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so we'll check to see for worried. Yeah, good. Now what do you look for in loop 2?
Check to see for the movement
Mm-hmm.
of the particles.
Mm-hmm. What about loop 3? What keyword are you looking for?
Erosion.
Mm-hmm. Explanation of why it's erosion. Yep.
Okay.
I would consider even moving question 3 to the start, just so
So it's
since
the
this
beginning?
is the most important question. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they can do that, they'll have more success on number. What do you currently have as number 1?
Okay.
So that's your action step for this week is what is going to be the impact of doing this here in the lesson? What is the impact going to be?
I'm gonna have a higher success of students being able to answer the questions in the IA
And the exit ticket.
and the exit
You're
ticket.
doing great at responding to it, but like you're going to have to respond to less if you do it here.
True.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so your lesson plan feedback this week was to put in the exemplars and know you know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, to build in your plans to monitor the quality of student work.
Okay.
Another thing that is still an action step for you, Meanie Morse, what am I about to say?
Positive praise.
The kids love you despite the fact that
Positive
you're
praise.
kind of a jerk, but they still love you. Like even if you just kind of smile at them, they're like, ooh, she smiled. But if you were like, thank you for la la la, I think they would melt.
Meaning Morse.
Meanie Morse. On that note, I think that's the end of our 03.